What's up, guys? So I wanted to show you guys a little in-depth look at my wheel setup. If you notice, my wheel is not here. I just have my e-brake and my shifter set up. That's because the wheel is actually over here. I took it off the rig, decided to put it all together so I could take it all apart, show you guys how I wired in for the e-brake and modified, it for the custom NRG wheel, that beautiful minty green and Neurochrome wheel over there. So I'm going to bring it over here. We're going to take the wheel apart and give you a little bit of look on how I wired in with the button box, removing all the wires. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright guys, so we're here at my wheel on my little table, workbench, makeshift, whatever you want to call it. So if you notice, I have the factory wheel on there, but it's not connected. It is actually unscrewed, unbolted, and everything from there because I wasn't going to take the time to put it all together. We're going to take this away because we don't use this anywhere. We're going to put this up here and get into the nitty-gritty of the wheel setup after I have a sip of my Yingling here. So if you notice, nothing's screwed on, so I can actually pull the whole control system out. Now, there are these two silver buttons right here that on the back side of this, when I take it apart, I'll show you, there's two screws. Those actually go in through these two holes here. If you remove those two screws, you can pull the buttons out, pull that whole button contraption off the back of the factory wheel, and then, get to this part where I'm at now. So I've already unscrewed the back screws. Basically, when this is this way, you have your wheel on top of it, and you have your, centering ring. So you take your centering ring off, take the wheel off, then you have screws on the back side. When you take the screws off the back side here, there's actually one here, here, and one down here. When you take those screws off, don't mind the wire, that's for the e-brake. I'll show you that in a little bit. This will actually come off. Now there's a circuit board on the back side. There's a single plug in here. You take that plug off, which comes through the center of the hub, and you can pull this off. Circuit board, all your buttons and everything are right here. So after you take it off, there's actually three silver screws. They look like this. They go in through the points right here. There's one here, here, and one in the center. If you unscrew those points, this whole assembly will come off. Now I've already taken my paddles off. If you look here, the paddles actually slide in. There's actually four screws, one here and here, and one here and here for each side. I took these off because I don't actually use the paddles, because I just use them for the buttons on the back, because this actually sits on the side of my wheel rig. I don't have to worry about wires going through it. So that's what I want to show you guys, because there's no wires through the hub. So I don't have to worry about wires twisting, breaking, or anything on those lines. So this comes off as well. So we're going to stick this on the side, stick my circuit board on the side so I don't ruin that. So let's get to how I got the wire out and through the back of the box. Basically, there's a bunch of screws on the bottom. Let's take them out. I believe there's 8, if I'm not mistaken. Now you can see my wire's already through, but I'm going to show you exactly what I did to get it through, so that you're not just like, wait, how did he get it through there? Wait, I'm so confused. I wanted to do this, but I don't know what he did. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit, step by step. If I were just doing this from the get-go, like I wanted to when I first did the setup, then I wouldn't be doing it this way. But I figured a lot of people have been asking for how I did the setup, how I did everything, and all of that. So I figured, why not show you guys exactly what I did. Getting these all unscrewed here. We're going to tip this upside down, knock the screws out the bottom, and not drop them like I just did. But I found it, so we're good. So we should have 8. I count 7. There must be one still stuck in there. Yep, there's one still stuck in there. You, mister, come out. There you are. There's 8. So you have 8 screws that hold the top shell onto the wheel. We're going to stick these over here in a little cubby so that they don't get lost. And then basically, this whole top shell will come off. Now, it's a little trickier. It's not really that bad, but you want to pop the back part of the shell off first. And actually, my glue is kind of messing with me. So we're going to peel that back a little bit. Alright, there we go. So once you undo the clamp, it won't be as hard because you won't have glue holding out. It comes upwards and slide forward, and the whole top shell comes off your wheel. So if you look on the back side of the wheelbase, My clamps are falling all over the place. You have a small circuit board. Now, there's 4 screws. Here, and these 2 right here. If you pull those, the circuit board will come up a little bit, and there's 2 screws here and 2 screws here. If you take those out, this plate will come up a little bit. So that's very necessary for when you're pulling this wire from the front all the way out to the back, because it kind of gets bound up. Because it actually plugs in right here. If you can see right here, this wire just plugs in right here. So basically, what you do is on this, there's little tabs that if you pick open with like a small screwdriver or something on those lines, you can pull the wire out of the connector. What you're going to need to do to get it through the small hole that's through the steering shaft. But just remember, take a picture of your wire combination, the colors, and which order they go, so that when you don't plug it back in, your wheel doesn't start freaking out and you don't know what's going on, and the wheel's just like, I don't know what I'm doing. So you take those off, and then you basically pull the wiring through the wheel, through the hole, and you'll see it on the inside of here once you crack it open and look at yourself. And you just pull it through, and then you lift this up and pull the wiring out completely. So then you have one wire here. All I do is drill a small hole in the bottom of the shell for the wheelbase to put my wires out the back, just like that. And then there we go. I have no more wires through the center, no more wires to break or twist up, because I originally had wires run through for my e-brake, but with all the twisting back and forth of drifting and such, it broke. And that was not what I wanted to keep repairing, so I decided to make it on the side. It was actually, the idea was given to me by one of my teammates. He did it on his Thrustmaster, so I wanted to do it on a Logitech, so I decided, why not do it on this wheel and show people what you can do with a Logitech wheel if you don't want to buy a Thrustmaster, because Logitech's a lot cheaper than the Thrustmaster, but it's still a badass wheel. So now that that's all taken apart, we're actually going to put the top shell back on so that it doesn't get lost. It just slides back in like that, slides over the top of the steering shaft, slides over the back. There we go. My wires are still nice and tight. I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to screw this back in so that it doesn't come apart on me. 8 screws, nothing too major, nothing that, like, people might freak out, they're cracking open a $400 wheel, they don't really want to do it. But, as long as you go slow and you take your time, it's actually not that hard of a modification to do. And if you don't want wires going through the center of your hub, you don't want them to break, because the Logitech wires are very thin, they have a tendency to break. So a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll take it apart and they'll hot glue the wiring on the back side of that circuit board so that they don't break. Which is a good idea if you're not going to be modifying it for, say, an aftermarket wheel, like an NRG, a Grip Royale, or anything that's a 70mm hub wheel, or if you're not going to be taking it apart and wiring in an e-brake. So the wiring in the e-brake was pretty straightforward. Basically, instead of wiring it to the circuit board, so like a B button, I actually just wired it to the right paddle, because Forza and all the games I play allow me to use the paddle as an e-brake. Since I have a shifter, I don't need a paddle shifters to shift gears, because I use my H pattern 6-speed sequential shifter. It's not really a sequential, it's more of a H pattern. I completely don't know what I'm talking about, but you get what I'm saying. If you have one of these, you'll know what the shifter is. It's sold separately from the wheel, but it is what it is. If you want it, you pay for it. If not, you don't. That's your own personal opinion. I'm trying to find out which last hole I had this screw in. Alright, so once this is all screwed in, I'm going to take this off. I'm going to show you guys the e-brake and how I wired it in. So we're going to take this, and we're actually going to take this off the table for right now. Stick it over here on the side. So this is a circuit board. Once you unscrew it from here and unplug it, it comes clean off. Now if you notice, I have wires run right here. Well, that's because it's wired into this paddle. Now all I did to wire it into the paddle is I'm going to pull these few screws out to remove the circuit board from the back side of the buttons. These are very small screws. Just remember where they go, because there's actually holes where you think they go, but they don't actually go. So like if you're doing this, just take your time, go slow, make sure you know where your screws are going. It's not a big deal. If you have any type of, knowledge of circuitry, you'll know what holes are actually not. If you don't, just remember where you took them out from. So we gotta take these few little screws out. Okay. So now the circuit board's gonna be free. So I can take the circuit board up, and there we go. We have the circuit board for the steering wheel and all the buttons. You can see here's the buttons for A, B, Y, and X, and then your D-pad. Then you have your menu buttons, and on the back side you have your paddles. So if you notice, I have two wires going from the first and second pin of the right paddle. Just solder two wires to the pins. There's already posts up, so it makes it really easy to solder onto it. And then basically I ran the wires this way. So now, since I don't have to worry about running it through the rig, basically all I did was run it through these two buttons, put my circuit board back on. Now we're going to screw this back on so I don't lose my buttons, because be very careful when you take this circuit board off, because the buttons could fall off because of the simple fact that they're not held onto this base. So if you flip it over, the buttons will fall out and you got to put them all back in. It's not like the end of the world if it happens. Just, like I said, take your time, go slow. If you've never done it before and you're not comfortable doing it, I wouldn't recommend doing it. It's not a very hard, modification to do. But, if you don't want to potentially mess something up and then, break a rig, then I wouldn't do it. But I've always messed with circuitry, and I've messed with, a lot of stuff that comes with, circuit boards and electronics. So I'm very familiar with this kind of stuff. I've built RC cars from the ground up. I've built, planes and stuff like that. So I'm just putting these screws in right now, to make sure my circuit board stays secure. And this one goes here. See, I almost forgot where it went because I was talking. But like I said, with RC cars, I do have a rear-wheel drive converted, rear engine converted, Eagle Racing R31 with almost 90 degrees of lock. It is set up for drifting. That's another episode in itself. So if you guys want to see some RC drifting clips or an RC, setup build, don't forget to tap the like button and comment down below if you want to see that. The weather's getting nicer, so it is, nice to go outside and slide that around. So back to the setup. Okay, so before you want to screw this onto the top part of the base, you want to make sure that you run the wires through here from your wheel setup that has the wires that plug into the circuit board in. So now I got to grab the wheel base back. I'm going to gently put this over there. Pull the wheel base back over here. Now, we've already ran our wires to the back. We've already put it back in with the color codes. So now all you got to do is take the wires, push them through the hole on the back side of the base, and it comes out like that. Not really hard, not a big deal. So then you take your e-brake wired circuit board and you take the plug and you plug it back into the circuit board. So now your buttons and everything are wired in, you're good to go. You take this together and you just close it back up like so and put your screws in it. Now, these are very small screws, like really tiny screws. So I would recommend doing this on a table or on a mat, not on a carpet. When I originally did this the first time, I did it like on the ground, on the carpet, and I almost lost the screw. And you don't want to lose screws. I think I actually still have a missing screw, but because it's not connected to the wheel anymore, I'm not too worried about having all the screws in the back because it's not spinning around, it's not rotating, it's not, there's no force put onto it. So all I'm doing now is putting the screws back together to hold the front face of my button controls on. Like I said, I do believe I do. I do have a missing screw. Not a big deal, like I said, I would recommend doing this where you don't lose screws, but I did it. I was in a rush. I didn't want to, I wanted it done. I wanted to drive, so I kind of rushed, and that was my problem. So now that that's screwed in, you have your wheel rig, base, and your button box that you can set on the side. You have nothing here. So now that this is done, your e-brake's wired in. I'm going to turn this base around, set this button off to the side. Now, I actually put my centering ring back onto it just for aesthetic purposes because it sits on the side. And you use the factory screws from your original wheel setup, that's the wrong Allen key, to put it on. I just did it for like aesthetic purposes. You don't really need to do it. I did it just so that the button control box looks a little cleaner. And of course I have my NRG Innovations logo on there. Big shout out to NRG Innovations for supporting me and supporting the channel. So we're going to put these in real quick, and then we'll get back into more of the wheel setup and how to switch to a different wheel. Alright, so now that that's all screwed in, I'm actually I'm back happy with having, the NRG logo and everything there. This wheel is no longer needed. We don't need that wheel anymore because we're going to a full 350mm NRG Innovations wheel. So, the adapter for the Logitech is actually a billet. As you can see, it's a billet adapter made by I believe an individual. I got it off of Etsy. I'll leave the link down below on where I purchased this. This can actually go onto the button controls, and it'll bolt right to it in place of this if you want to use a wheel without taking all the buttons and everything apart. Now, if you notice, I do have a quick release on here because I do interchange my wheels. So I have a quick release on there, but that just bolts on directly on, just like a 70mm hub wheel. So all I did to make it bolt to this is I took the billet adapter and I actually screwed it in to this top part right here as I'm shifting the entire table. I screwed it onto the top part like I would if I was not removing the buttons from the controller, and I took the back side of this where there's the 3 holes and I just drilled 3 holes centered up with this, so that all I have to do is take the original 3 screws that held that big button contraption on and slide them through, and actually just screw them into the steering shaft of the Logitech. Wrong screwdriver. Rabbit's over there, he's, sipping on some water over there. I'm sipping on some Yingling. If you're sipping on something down below, comment down below what you're sipping on. For those of you who don't know and have followed the channel before, you guys know my rabbit logo is actually designed off of my pet rabbit, who is over here. Don't mind the mess. He's right there, drinking a little water. Say hi, Winter. What's up, buddy? Hi! He's saying hey. Don't mind the mess. My girlfriend and I are working on her Etsy store stuff with vinyls and getting ready for a craft show. She's got her whole section over there, as well as, I got the computer set up over here and my wheel rig over there. So it's kind of a clustered office right now because it's kind of a mess, but let's get back to this wheel. That's what you guys came here to see, right? You guys came here to see how I modified my wheel rig. So, you didn't come here to look at my rabbit or anything like that. So we're going to put these screws in that hold the adapter to the steering shaft of the Logitech G920. 3 simple screws. Really, really, really long screws, but 3 simple screws nonetheless. Now, like I said, if you didn't have this quick release, there is just, 6 bolts that sit up. There's 6 screws, and that actually represents the 6 screws that are right here on the 70mm hub wheel. But I have the back half of the quick release screwed onto my NRG wheel, so all I have to do is twist my quick release off, slap my wheel in, lock it down, and there we go. Full 900-degree rotation, 350mm wheel. And that's how I modified my wheel setup to get the button box on the side, get the handbrake to work on the Logitech G920. So I'm going to take my wheel off here so I can transport my rig back to the other side. Team WeRabbitz custom sticker on the rim. Little nice touch that I did. I think it's pretty cool. So we're going to move over back to the wheel setup, get this thing hooked back up, get it into Horizon 3, show you guys a little bit of my wheel settings that I run on Horizon 3 with my custom wheel rig. Alright, now that we got the wheelbase set back up here on the wheel rig, we got Forza Horizon in the background. If you notice down here, I do have reverse mounted pedals. Now all I do is take the pedals out of the base, screw them onto a vertical, horizontal platform to make, vertical pedals so it feels a little bit more like a real car. And we got our button box on the side. Next thing you do is to hook up the e-brake with our wires that we've already run. So basically, if you look down here on my hydraulic e-brake that I have, get these wires out of the way. It's a standard hydraulic e-brake that I got off eBay. It's just, all I did was add an RC spring into the middle to give it a little more tension. And if you look right on here on the side, you can see a switch, a button switch that the hydraulic e-brake just touches. So basically we have two small wires that go onto the two small points. And when that button is pushed, it actually activates the button. So we're going to go ahead and put those wires in. Alright, so we got the wires connected to the two pins of that switch. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take these wires and tuck them conveniently behind my little wire hider, whatever you want to call it, with my NRG sticker on there. Tuck the wires nice under there, get them out of the way, wrap them around, tuck them away so they don't get involved with the shifter and or the wheel. And there we go. So now we have a working e-brake. You can't really see it working on there, but if I go to menu and I were to go to the dashboard and I hit the e-brake lever, it actually activates my right button. And then I can go here, hit the back of my controller, and go back to the left button. So, now, let's get the wheel connected, and I'll show you guys a little bit of my wheel settings, and we'll go from there. Alright, so we got the wheel hooked all back up on the quick release. We're good to go on this. So now, I'm going to give you guys a little look at my settings that I use here in Forza Horizon 3. I'm going to go menu, I think it was in home, settings. And then we're going to go into controller. And then we're going to go to advanced. Now, if you look at the settings here, I have steering dead zone, axis in at 0, steering axis out as 100, steering linearity, I can't speak today. But we have that set at 55. We have accelerator, dead zone, 0 to 100. Deceleration axis, 0 to 100. Clutch axis, 0 to 100. E-brake axis, 0 to 100. Now, if you go down here, I do have vibration scale turned off. Now, the reason I have vibration scale turned off is because of the fact that I'm running a larger rim. I'm trying not to burn up the inside of my rig or my wheelbase. So we have vibration scale at 0. Force feedback scale is at 50. We are at 900 degrees of rotation, as well as force feedback understeer is at 0. Force feedback minimum force is at 40. Wheel dampening scale is at 0. And centering spring scale is at 100. So those are the wheel settings that I use. You can fine tune your own wheel settings how you like. So let's test this all out, make sure everything works. I didn't mean the dashboard. So I'm going to set this camera up on the tripod. We're going to get a little slide going. Alright, so we're going to test this out here. It's probably hard for you guys to see and hear, but if you guys watch my other videos, you'll see the wheel rig cam set up, and you'll see full, gameplay action on my channel. Just following behind this, Le Mans R8. Go around this car, hit it, but still go. Everything seems to be working with that e-brake. Nice slide through. Horrible entry into the zone, but there's traffic everywhere. Everything's good. My brake scale, see, I can throw the wheel back the other way to catch it. I can throw it back the other way, and I can just e-brake it, throw it to catch it the other way, dodge this truck. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this little in-depth look at my wheel setup. If you guys want to see more house vlogs or vlogs of any sort, such as the RC car, setup and all that, comment down below. Definitely more videos coming out here soon with the weather being nicer. We're going to be going to a lot more car shows, going to some drift events and such. Of course, there'll be the game footage, as always, on the channel, from gameplay of Horizon 3, Dirt Rally, new games coming out. That's a really long e-brake grab.
Oh, I want something